Hello, dear friends. Today in the Allatra TV studio, we welcome the esteemed Igor Mikhailovich Danilov
Greetings.
and Жанна.
Greetings.
On the 4th of December 2021, the conference Global Crisis Time for the Truth took place. And it was the day when the truth sounded particularly loud. It sounded in 100 languages with the involvement of millions of people from around the world. Thanks to the tremendous work done by volunteers of the Creative Society Project from more than 180 countries, and thanks to people's courage to speak on the subjects that are usually kept silent about in modern society. Yes, the information was voiced, which sheds light not just on climate cataclysms and the causes of these climate cataclysms that are escalating every day, but also undeniable, disturbing facts were voiced regarding the consumerist format of society, the entire horror of the consumerist format, the bottom of the consumerist format, and these facts have actually shown the real face of society in which we live. You know, at times, the truth sounded painfully and was even heartbreaking. Yet it's not despair and hopelessness that were the main feeling which prevailed during the conference, but actually joy. Joy because there is a way out, there is a chance to change everything, and admiration for those people who are using this chance, implementing it and making it a reality. Admiration for the true heroes who carry this banner of truth with dignity.
Right. Thanks to you, friends. Today we can bravely say that the time of truth has come. I would like to express sincere gratitude to everyone who participated in the conference Global Crisis Time for the Truth, for your boldness and courage, for your ultimate altruism and devotion. To all those who loudly and openly voiced the truth about the modern consumerist format and, most importantly, suggested a way out of the current situation, which is construction of the creative society, the only chance for the entire humanity to survive. You know, it is remarkable that the conference held on the 4th of December 2021, Global Crisis Time for the Truth, has united a great many people all over the world, regardless of race, skin color, social status, gender, religion, or profession. It has united them by one global ultimate goal of saving humanity. Mutual help, support, love and respect. These are the foundations on which relationships among people should be formed in a mature, healthy and civilized society. And it is such a joy to see these first germs of very important changes inside the human community, which are rapidly multiplying. Your choice, dear friends, truly deserves respect.
And the conclusion, which the participants, millions of people all over the world have come to after hearing information that was voiced at the conference, is that certainly the situation cannot continue as it is, that it is time for all of us to unite and change the paradigm of the consumerist format of society's development, I would even say degradation of this society. Igor Mikhailovich, I would like to thank you. Thank you for the knowledge. Thank you for ensuring that humanity has these coordinates of salvation. Thank you for the fact that we, people, see a way out of this labyrinth of all sorts of problems and the doom of the consumerist format. And on behalf of our viewers, thank you. Thank you for your support. Thank you for the power of spirit, and thank you for believing in people. This is so important because support is indeed extremely valuable. At times, our consciousness, unfortunately, palms off some doubts about our own strengths, doubts about ourselves. Meanwhile, as we know, if it assesses that our plans and ideas are beyond our strengths, that we will fail to achieve a desired result, then most likely some delay or even inaction follows. Therefore, it is so important and relevant to always understand what is consciousness, how to cope with these doubts, how to believe in oneself again. Igor Mikhailovich, how can a person believe in oneself?
That's a very good question. It is actually very easy to believe in oneself. but it is necessary to make efforts for that. In order to do that, a person should pay attention to himself. This is really simple, friends. Everything is hidden in the depth of our consciousness and who we perceive ourselves to be. If a person is unfamiliar with the knowledge, if he is far from internal work, I'm not even talking about spiritual work. I'm talking about internal work. It is self-development, exploration of oneself, study of oneself, of what our thoughts are, how they come, how they are formed, why they dominate us, how a thought appears, how it is implemented inside us, and what one or another thought leads to. If a person doesn't think about that, then he doesn't live. His consciousness lives instead of him. That's where the entire point and the whole depth of any human development is hidden. Whether it is individual development for the purpose of conquering this world, becoming someone, or for the purpose of really gaining life, developing spiritually, becoming a free person, and beginning to live right here and right now. Everything begins with these first steps. Wow. The first step, my friends, is exactly the process of observing oneself. Is it you who form a thought, or does it come to you from somewhere? If it comes to you in an unfolded, finished form, and furthermore, if it brings up emotions, if you don't order it, then where does it appear from and why? A simple question. Many people say, during a conversation, how can I distinguish anything if these are my thoughts? This is actually me. A person doesn't even understand that he is not a thought. He is the one who observes this process and the one who later on, let's say, desperately scolds himself. Why did I behave this way at one or another moment? In fact, this is true.
When there is a sense of guilt, it is actually the system's manipulation. There's always...
Sure, of course. Or when a person feels his conscience is against, but he acts, he starts arguing, quarreling with someone, getting indignant, or something else, and he realizes, why am I doing this, but continues doing it? Why? Because he believes that it's his thought, that it is actually him. That's the whole trouble, that a person cannot understand that a thought is not him. Consciousness is not him. Consciousness is a tool, my friends. But this tool can dominate the personality of each of us. If we do not engage in self-development and do not study these subtleties, however, consciousness works in such a way that it postpones this work until later. Sometimes it even happens that a person has started working, gained an understanding. He can differentiate where consciousness is and where he is as personality. But suddenly, he has some everyday situations, something happens somewhere at work, he gets distracted, even when watching TV series or something else. He switches his attention, gives his inner resource under the control of consciousness, and that's it. He already becomes consciousness. Friends of mine, we are those and we are where our attention is. Attention is our personality's major tool. It is the energy of life which basically forms our reality, both inside and outside. Where we invest it is what is implemented. Many people want everything to happen fast, and they fall into magic, wishing for material benefits. This is wrong. Any magic and any material desires bring everything down to the abyss. This is really so. I'm not saying that we should refuse material things. For God's sake, all of us are people, all of us live. We should be warm and sated. There have to be decent houses and decent conditions for existence. Well, even decent cars and everything else. Everything should be fine. And if you can afford something beautiful and nice, that's also wonderful. Let's say, availability of good housing conditions does not make a person less spiritual or more spiritual. Our material side of life has nothing to do with our development. But if it's a goal of our existence, I mean, exactly to improve our everyday life, to become richer, to achieve something or something else, we lose life in pursuit of matter. This is really so. Look attentively at the years that have passed. No matter how old you are now, Look behind. After all, those years were yesterday, and they have passed like an instant, while you live here and now. If you do not value this moment of here and now, if you do not start working, do not work on yourselves right now, and do not develop as personalities, tomorrow you'll be in the same state of slavery. No matter how you seek freedom, no matter what kind of revolutions you arrange, no matter how you change the world or which format you build in this world, consumerist, creative, or any other you would invent, you will still be slaves because freedom and slavery begin inside. Even not in your head, but here. If you are not free here, you are not free in your head either. And if you are not free in your head, you are a slave. Wherever you live, whatever country you reside in, everything is formed inside a person. That's the point, my friends. Therefore, it's not difficult to study what consciousness is and to observe oneself. It's not difficult to stop yourself if you see something that is wrong. Even if we take a simple example in the form of a game, you communicate with your family, relatives, or friends. It doesn't matter. But best of all, with those who like to argue, contradict you, or even better, with those who hate you and dislike you. But you have to communicate with them at work, in the family. It doesn't matter. In fact, many of us really feel like strangers being in a family, in one family, among our nearest and dearest. Sometimes there are such relationships in families that you relax when being with an enemy. That's actually the way it is. But who creates all this? Exactly, our consciousness creates it. So, at those very moments, if you have such life situations, it's exactly the best time to realize who you are, my friend. It's very simple. When you start listening, and consciousness tells you that someone is bad, you start evaluating him. You start thinking and investing your attention in negative thoughts about someone. Stop it. Just stop it. Ask yourself a question. Why am I doing this? Do I feel good right now? And look, here's the paradox. Our consciousness turns our life into hell, in the literal sense of the word. But it says right away, if you think about good things, you'll fall into an illusion. You'll get lost in life, after all, right? How is that? There's an enemy next to you. It doesn't matter who he is. Your opponent, whoever he would be, he is an enemy to you. Consciousness tells you that he's not good. But for some reason, you have to coexist together. At work, in a house, it doesn't matter. In the same family? That's secondary. What matters is that he is there. And consciousness always gives you a lot of discrediting evidence about him. So when consciousness provides you with a lot of discrediting evidence about that person, pulling up all your life story, telling you how bad he is, you form exactly the same opinion about yourself inside that person. That's where the paradox is. Let me digress a little. Each of us has noticed that if we coexist with a certain person, then, after a while, we start talking about the same things in the same way. Psychologists say that we are in the same, let's say, environment. Almost the same thoughts begin to form in us. The same habits are formed, and so on. But in fact, everything is much simpler. Our consciousness, the consciousness of all of us, and each of us individually, is of one essence. It has one source and belongs to a single whole. It is called in different ways. The absolute, the world of the devil, no matter what they call it in religions, or as atheists call it, something like the egregore of the unified consciousness of humanity, and so on. It doesn't matter what it is called. It is one structure, one field. It's a field structure. It is not located in the third dimension. Our consciousness is a product of a higher dimension. Therefore, no matter how we look for it in the brain, we don't find it there. Why do we not find it in the brain? After all, the brain has been studied in great detail for at least 100 years, and they are trying to find where our consciousness hides there. Even by means of modern equipment, we can track which neurons react to which thoughts, and in what way. We can see the reaction, but where do our thoughts hide? Where is our consciousness hidden in the brain? They say that it's a product of the synchronous work of neurons. We have 1 billion neurons. They are synchronized in their work. They form our thoughts and live. They're according to certain laws. But even using modern equipment, we see a reaction of neurons to something, which is almost identical in everyone. And what do we see? We see a reaction. But we don't see our consciousness, and we won't see it. Why? Because our brain is an intermediate structure between our consciousness. This three-dimensionality, our body, and us as personalities. This is really so. The ancients knew about that. They knew that shaitan is much closer than the carotid artery. Isn't that so? It is. Why? Because they talked about our consciousness. It doesn't mean that we have some demon somewhere near our soul, that here's an angel sitting, and here's a demon, and they whisper to us, those religious fairy tales. Everything is simpler, much simpler, but at the same time more serious. But you can see this only when you, my friend, begin to work on yourself, to work hard indeed. If a thought comes to you about your opponent that he is bad, not good, and the like, stop and think about what the thought came to you for. After all, you didn't call for it now. If it's your consciousness, it means you must control it. Consciousness must work to make our life happier. After all, it sets consumerism for us, forces us to be greedy and ruthless towards others when we try to climb this social ladder, right? And why does it do that? So that we gain more, so that we acquire some status in this world, so that we don't just exist in vain. Because every person's consciousness tries to dominate the consciousnesses of other people. Isn't that so? It is. If we look even at kids, even kids start fighting for dominance in a group. It's like among animals. There's a pack of wolves, and even a little cub starts bullying everybody. Why? He stands up for what is his territory, his position in the pack, and so on. He tests others for weakness, whom he can command and whom he cannot. And our consciousness is always tuned to dominate. In some people, it works quite cunningly, through their own weaknesses. In others, on the contrary, it works straightforwardly, through physical dominance, simply through anger, strength, and the like. Still in others, it is more cunning, trying to impress with intelligence. But it's the same for everyone, the same field structure. Some people have a more intellectually developed consciousness. A person has invested more attention, more effort in order to become smarter and to dominate others, while others have a more stupid consciousness, but they are physically stronger. They invested the power of their attention through consciousness in developing their physical strength so as to dominate physically, whereas someone invested it in cunning in order to outsmart others. But there is resistance and struggle everywhere. But where's happiness? Where's life? Why do we actually try to climb the social ladder? Why do we try to dominate someone? To gain what? More freedom, more happiness. Did freedom and happiness come to anyone? A simple question, no matter where you are, my friend, no matter at what level of the social ladder, tell me honestly, are you happy when consciousness commands you? After all, you have a lot of problems at this point, don't you? What are you doing? You are thinking badly of someone, making some plans, trying to somehow elevate yourself. But where's happiness? Where's life? What does life consist in? And here is also a paradox. For some people, life is about going on vacation, buying a new car, so as to make neighbors envious, not for you to drive comfortably and easily, just with pleasure, but to make someone envy you. Isn't that so? And what does envy have to do with it? A simple question. In order for your neighbor to pay attention to you. And what do we come to again? To the power of attention, to the importance and value of this essential resource that a human possesses. What is our attention? It is the power that comes from personality. Exactly this power is the product which our consciousness fights for. The more it attracts it to itself, the stronger it is. The stronger it is, the more it dominates you, my friends. And at this point, it is very important to train our consciousness. If we approach it as a tool, like a wild beast that must serve us, and we understand that our consciousness is like a bear. It can fawn, do whatever we want it to do, but at any moment, as soon as we turn away, it can attack us and kill us in the literal sense of the word. Kill us during our lifetime, kill us as personalities, and we will have no life. We can destroy ourselves with a single deed, simply by listening to our consciousness. Isn't that so? Let's look. How many people have ruined their lives? They have deprived themselves of life in the future, a true life. But in this temporary life too, they have limited their life or turned it into hell. Why? Because they listened to their consciousness. And here, when a person begins to work on himself, an understanding comes that our consciousness is always tuned negatively, always tuned to meanness. Yes, it can toady, it can praise, it can play along, but it always strives to take as much attention as possible from personality to itself and to enslave our personality as much as possible. And this is exactly where our desire for freedom arises from. After all, it's an inner desire. But consciousness mixes it, as usual, with whatever possible and throws everything outwards. We look for this freedom here, in three-dimensionality. We try to change something in our lives, try to somehow understand ourselves. We look for enemies in our family and among our friends. We look for enemies in our country. After all, we are in slavery for some reason. We feel uncomfortable. And we want to change something, from authorities to our other half. And in fact, we do not know what we want. Time passes, authorities change, but freedom doesn't come. Many people change. Let's say their other halves change their families, but freedom doesn't come. Many, like hermits, go into religion, into seclusion, but they don't become freer. Why? If the world around you bothers you, close yourself in your room or in your apartment, or go somewhere and stay alone at least for a couple of days. If you haven't become happy and free, the problem is in you, my friend, not in those around you. It's not an illusory happiness when we go out, have a day off, and feel good. The day off passes quickly, and then we are back in the same place again. This is not freedom. Freedom is inside, regardless of what your mind is occupied with or what your body is doing. Right?
You know, the word freedom is always accompanied by the word responsibility.
Of
and
course.
who in a person prevents him from taking responsibility for his life?
No one except consciousness, for it always argues. Always tries to blacken even what is good. It always throws in those very doubts. As you said, it's precisely consciousness. Why? What if something doesn't work out and you will fail? It belittles you, but then it immediately tries to exalt you. That's how our consciousness works. It works by incessant contradiction. You know, it's like in some organizations. There are religious books which are full of contradictions. Why are they full of contradictions? Because the swing is arranged. And you don't know where the truth is. You don't understand where it is. In the same way consciousness works. It praises you. Then it immediately scolds you. Then it encourages you and gives you a simply great idea to implement. And a minute later, it tells you that nothing will work out for you because you will not succeed at anything. Then it throws an idea to you. Go talk to people. And a second later, when you are about to go, it tells you, don't go. They won't want to listen to you. Isn't that so?
It is.
And here's the paradox. When we are controlled by consciousness, even when it comes to the creative society, I'm not even talking about Alatra. I'm talking about creative society. After all, consciousness holds the tongues of many people, while many try to tell a person about the creative society from consciousness, from their own consciousness based on their selfishness and pridefulness by dominating someone. And then they say people don't want to hear them. Why do people not want to hear them? because they talk uncandidly and insincerely, or they talk to those who are slaves of consciousness, who are afraid of the truth, who, like cowards, hide behind an illusion created for them by their own consciousness, so that they don't see the truth about what is happening to the climate and to the world. Isn't that so? And behind one's own fear, a person hides through what? Through his aggression and denial of reality, which is in fact already outside everyone's window. That's why some people don't want to hear. But when a person is sincere and candid, if he comes and says, "Did you see what happened there?" "I did." "Did you compare it with this and that?" "No." "Go ahead, compare and look. Do you see the progression?" "I do." "Well, if you're not a fool, do you see what it leads to?" "I do." Isn't that right? One must know how to talk to consciousness too. Consciousness can deny anything but facts. And when you speak the language of facts, anyone will come to understand that really there is a problem, and something must be done. Eventually, upon making the right decision, a person begins to realize that many things should be changed, but the most important thing is to change a lot of things in oneself, to change the bad for the good. Then life becomes wonderful. Life is wonderful, after all. Even here, every day, every moment, this is life. For if that moment which you and I are living now is not filled with love, joy, and happiness, it is empty. It is filled with death, anger, and filth. While if it is neutral, it is nothing at all. It is neither cold nor warm. It is nothing at all. What's the point of this moment? And what's the point of being and living even here? If you don't experience happiness, joy, and love, what's the point then? To live in sorrow? Just look at how our consciousness works. For it often throws to many people thoughts ranging from suicidal to belittling and insulting ones. When a person puts himself in a kind of opposition to everyone and everything, and he takes pleasure in this masochism, there is no other way to call it. What's the pleasure in? In humiliation, in slavery. Humiliation in an illusion from consciousness. When you do not live, what's the point? Nothing will actually delight you, neither your everyday life, nor your near and dear ones, no one and nothing. But when you live in joy and happiness, that's different. You rejoice at everything, even at a bird that flew by. You rejoice, even at rain and mud, because it is the rain and the mud that nourishes the earth, isn't it so? You rejoice at your near and dear ones, you rejoice at your friends. Yes, even if your friend is trying to become your opponent, his consciousness is tuned that way, and he doesn't perceive you. He thinks that he is superior to you. But those are the problems of his consciousness. After all, if there is a human being in him, and you see him as a friend, a mate, not just some beast, if you see a personality in him, well, this is also wonderful. Little by little, gradually, when you explain to him on elementary examples how to work with his consciousness. Isn't that wonderful if you see a positive change in him? I think it's wonderful. Yes, when a person is in slavery to consciousness, sometimes he is pitiful to look at, and you don't always feel like talking to a demon in his head, especially when you feel wonderful and good. But on the other hand, it is his choice, his as personality. While the choice is sacred, you cannot change it either.
You might not support his standpoint, but you can share your joy.
Exactly. Jana is right regarding this point. If you share your joy, even if it makes him jealous and angry, but it will make him ponder, that's already good. Not an illusion of joy, but true joy, if you have it in you. However, if you don't have it in you, my friend, then you have lived this moment in vain. After all, it's easy to gain joy. And then the world changes, then everything becomes really wonderful.
Also, I'd like to add that, indeed, if a person is guided by egoism, he is more prone to attacks by consciousness.
Of course.
He is more inclined to accept these negative mindsets of perception. He spills out this negativity you mentioned. He projects it on his closest people. He spills it out on situations and circumstances uncontrollably.
And most importantly, he spills out this egoism and this negativity on himself.
Yes, in this way he projects what he experiences inside.
Of course, for what's inside is what is outside.
Right.
We see the world the way consciousness draws it for us. And that's where the entire phenomenon is. if we see hopelessness, if we see filth and death, we see slavery, what is happening now in our consumerist format. We see rampant climate. We see and understand all normal people, all reasonable, normal people who are able to comprehend something and observe what is happening at least a little bit. They realize that this world is coming to an end. A great many people feel it all. Is there anything to be sad about? Of course there is. And the consciousness of many people begins to draw a picture of disaster. And consciousness is right about that. Why is it right? Because indeed, if we proceed from logic, from trivial mathematics, when we observe what is going on, we realize that this world will not last long. However, if we are slaves of consciousness, we will be oppressed and immobilized. But if we are free as personalities, or if we are fighters, real warriors and heroes, we confront our consciousness. We strive to live. We strive for love and happiness inside. Then from this perspective, from the perspective of the freedom of personality, we see prospects and opportunities. Isn't that so?
It is.
We see that we can change a lot. We see that we are capable of changing this consumerist format to a creative society today, now. We can. Yes, together, we cannot do it alone. But on the other hand, even one man in the field is a warrior. This year has shown as never before how many people are capable of changing a lot single-handedly. At first they are alone, but then masses of people join them, and many things change. Isn't that so? It is. Why? Because they feel the verity, they feel the truth, and they follow the truth along the right road. And they're happy inside, because they realize they're doing that, not for themselves. After all, an egoist does everything for himself, and everything is around his own self, while a free personality acts for people. Those are truly heroes. Heroes are those who do not seek their personal selfishness and to elevate their pridefulness, not those who tramp on people's heads or seize what doesn't belong to them, but those who, despite anything, do everything they can for people. Those who give, those who act from the inside outward, not from the outside inward, and the difference here is enormous.
Right. And the high level of altruism exactly eliminates pridefulness in a person.
That's right.
This phenomenon itself deactivates the centers responsible for egoism,
Right.
and a person is capable of...
Genuine, true altruism and selfishness are incompatible things.
Yes.
They're antagonists.
Right.
You know, to support your words, there is a wonderful parable about a young man who met a crying old man and asked why he was crying. The old man said, "You know, I would like to get to my relatives through the swamp, but the road is ruined." So this young man, being alone, volunteered to help and restore this road across the swamp. All by himself, he collected logs and stacked them. The old man said, "Oh, you're all alone. Your lifetime won't be enough to build such a road by yourself." But the young man didn't give up and kept building it. After a while, other men from the village joined him, and they began to build this road across the swamp together. And when they got to the middle of the swamp, they saw that a road was being built towards them from the city. And that moment has really reminded me of the Creative Society project participants.
You were telling the story now, and I also associate this with the Creative Society. Indeed, those very bridges destroyed by the climate, and not only that, but other crises destroyed many bridges between us as well. Many people are desperate, like that old man, but the present day has also shown us there are many heroes like that guy who started building these bridges on their own. And many have joined them, and they have seen how many more people are there who help them build. And many people are building bridges towards them from all over the world, towards one another. It's a good parable. And most importantly, it reflects the present day of building the creative society.
Also, you know, modern researchers wanted to find out what can be more effective than some kind of propaganda in the media or some kind of carrot and stick method. What can be more efficient? I liked the experiment by scientists from San Diego when they tried to figure out how they could save energy, and they placed different kinds of messages on doorknobs. In one message, they talked about saving electricity in order to take care of the environment. In the second one, they talked about taking care of future generations. In the third one, they talked about saving money. And in the fourth, they said your neighbor is already doing something to save energy every day. And it was absolutely true. What's interesting is that when they summarized their results at the end of the month, they realized that only one type of message worked. It was your neighbor is already doing something. This is so inspiring, and it suggests that without a neighbor, none of us can be saved in this consumerist world.
Of course not. Let's look even at the last conference about the creative society. I come back to that again, friends. We see how many people join, and they are surprised that so many people are doing what they have wanted to do all their lives. Isn't that so?
It is.
Why? There is an example. Every normal, reasonable person wants to live in the creative society. Everyone. This is really so. Everyone wants a good environment. Everyone wants freedom, genuine inner freedom, which would manifest not only in an individual, but also in society as a whole. Everyone wants to watch news that doesn't talk about negative things, the news that shows reality, but it's reporting. And main message is about good things, about heroes, where good people and good deeds are shown. Who doesn't want that? Everyone wants that,
Yes.
don't they? But consciousness says, but you are alone. Yet when people see that there are millions of them, naturally, they join in. And you have seen how many people connected on December 4th, 2021, compared to the previous conference. And indeed, people are simply shocked that they've been looking for this all their life and thought that it didn't exist,
That they were alone.
that they were the only ones of that kind.
Yes.
Yet they have found not only like-minded people, but also friends,
Yes.
right?
That's absolutely right.
Good neighbors who, in fact, already do a lot, not just something, but do a lot. And we have seen that our neighbors are actually good, right? They are doing something. Of course, you yourself want to act too.
Yes.
That's a good example.
We certainly see in practice how people, when they unite, can achieve much more than they can individually.
Right.
Igor Mikhailovich, I'd like to voice another point here. Why is it that people sometimes fail to act? Because consciousness thinks that if there are areas of activity that are beyond my control, then I absolve myself from that responsibility. Unfortunately, when it comes to the topic of climate, many people wrongly assume that the influence of astronomical processes on our planet, which intensify climate change, cannot be stopped, that this is some area that is beyond human control. Is this actually true?
In fact, this is really so. And these people are right. If we don't do anything, if we don't change anything, then, yes, we cannot do anything. As of today, we cannot do anything to confront climate change. If we don't change the very point of our existence and the entire meaning of the existence of all humanity, we will not change anything. We will not have what we can use to confront it, because we don't even have an understanding. Even from a scientific perspective, we don't understand what's going on. I mean, those forces that actually affect the core of our planet, affect our entire planet. And not only our planet, but the planets of the solar system, and other planets even beyond the solar system. This is what we can observe, and this is what we see. This is actually happening everywhere, even on the sun. So this power of influence that comes from the center of the universe through many galaxies, including ours, is enormous, but we cannot even find what it is. I'll put it simply. Well, we are accustomed that there are certain types of interactions and there are certain types of energy that we know. Thermal, electromagnetic, and something else, right? I mean, like this radio wave, there are various kinds of emissions, radiation. This is what we know and operate with. And we think that we've learned everything, that we know a lot. So we try to use what we know, and we don't find anything. There's just nothing, but we see a reaction, and we see a pattern. And this is where, I would explain a little bit more here. What kind of energy is used between interacting particles at the quantum level? What kind of energy was used when we conducted the pyramid experiment? Many of you remember, friends, when the operator transmitted, let's put it so, certain commands or certain images, and thousands of people around the world perceived that. What kind of energy was used? An electromagnetic one, or what kind? What kind of wave was it? What kind of transmission was it? And why did people perceive the information accurately several days before the operator transmitted it? I mean, there was such a thing too. What's the paradox here? Well, either thousands of people, somehow fell into a hallucination, yet they answered correctly. Well, they had a huge choice, right? And they didn't even know the task. And the paradox lies exactly in, it's not even a paradox, it's a commonplace reality. Let's put it this way. We have a very high opinion of ourselves as a highly developed civilization, but we are actually not even a civilization yet. We are fragmented communities of people with hypertrophied megalomania of some scientists who do not know anything, in fact. Let's be honest. Not a single climatologist can tell us what will happen to the climate tomorrow. Not a single scientist, not a single physicist can say what forces make interconnected particles interact. Not a single physicist, not a single neurophysiologist, whoever he is, can explain how the operator contacted the consciousness of other people. What kind of power was that? What kind of energy was it? Isn't it so? Not a single one, I emphasize, not a single scientist can say, name or describe that force of energy which made the whole world form. We don't have that knowledge. What does this indicate? It indicates that, yes, we can relax and wait for the inevitable. Or we can roll up our sleeves. My friends, sit down at the table all together and begin to study this, especially since we have very little time. So this should be done as quickly as possible. We should gather all our intellectuals, thinking people of various occupations, of various fields of science, and have a real brainstorming session, right?
Great.
Yes. Those who deny, or who are dominated by consciousness, they can be left out. They are not needed in this group of thinkers. Why? Because when there is brainstorming, when there is a group, if they have a goal, some kind of opposition is immediately swept away. There appears someone in the group who says, no, we will not succeed. Someone who doubts. What does he sow? Doubts. This is a person who doesn't control himself. This is a banal little animal, a lazy little animal. Hence, this lazy little animal should stay beyond such a group, right? So when all of our scientists gather together and undertake a task to find a solution on saving our planet within the shortest time possible, at any cost, but provided that we are already a single civilization, that we change our consumerist format to a creative one, then believe me, friends, there will be a solution. We will find it. We will find what these kinds of energy are. We'll be able, so to speak, to find ways to detect them. And, of course, to work with them. Thus, we will be able to put up an equal counteraction to the impact that is coming to us. That's not difficult, and that's realistic. It is trite physics.
Back at the beginning of the 20th century, there was a survey on how much our personal forecasts are worse than our collective ones.
Let's put it this way. What is more effective?
What is more effective, yes.
When the smartest person in the world gives his forecast, and when we gather a group of people who are involved in the same subject, who of them will be more accurate? The group will always be more accurate.
Yes.
A lot more. The smartest person who gives a forecast can, so to say, correctly guess a small percentage. If we take an issue of finance, of course, if we don't take those who manipulate it, we take a long-term forecast. For example, on
markets.
Yes, on markets. Just on the issue of economy. Nowadays, it's trendy.
Yes.
Now it is used, and we have experts who are such top experts, and they give their forecast. Once they guess something right, and they are authority figures. I'm just watching it, and I look at the mistakes they make, and I look at the companies where groups of specialists who make forecasts are involved in brainstorming, and their forecasts are up to 80% accurate.
Yes.
It's a very high rate if we consider the issues of economy, especially finance. As for individuals, they have it far below 50%, meaning they are inaccurate.
Also, in the beginning of the 20th century, 800 people tried to determine the weight of a bull. But when they did it individually, there was such a gross inaccuracy. Sometimes they were too far from the real figure. But when they made a median estimate of how much this bull weighs and averaged all answers, it turned out that the figure was incredibly accurate. There was almost a 0.08% deviation. Everyone has so much knowledge about the whole. So when we combine all these efforts, we are the most productive and accurate.
You know, every one of us has consciousness. Everyone's consciousness is a part of the whole. Sort of an egregore of consciousness is formed. No matter what we call it, it is strong, it is smart, it can forecast something, and so on. But each of us also has a personality. If we compare, let's call it simply, the egregore of consciousness and the egregore of personality, meaning what personality originates from. And if we unite at the level of personality, at the level of free people, really spiritually free people, then these field structures, let's simply call them so for understanding, the egregore of consciousness and the egregore of personality, it's impossible to compare them. Why? Because the egregore of personality will be infinite and eternal. As for the egregore of consciousness, we won't even find it in this infinity. It is nearly nothing. So, if we, as humanity as a whole, unite precisely on spiritual aspects, guys, I'm not saying on religious aspects, I'm saying on spiritual ones, and the difference is huge. No offense to religions. It's true. Then our capabilities will be boundless. Really boundless. Why? Because spiritual aspects are all human values. That's what all the prophets who came here spoke about. Later, their knowledge was transformed into religions, and again, turned into convenient organizations in a consumerist format. The difference between religion and spirituality is enormous, and in fact, they have almost nothing in common. Excuse me, but it's true. Now is the time for the truth, and the time to tell the truth has come. There are very good people in religions too, who are free and spiritually liberated. But there are also very good people, even among atheists, including spiritually free ones. So you shouldn't measure people by their belonging to this or that religion, sect, or organization, or people who are simply free from, say, all organizations and mindsets. People should be measured by their humaneness, right?
Yes.
As of today, there actually comes such an understanding. It was correctly voiced at the conference that now people should be divided into fellow heroes and collaborationists. Those who work on the side of the enemy, those who serve the enemy, while the climate is really the enemy. And I really liked how the guys voiced it all. Well done. It was clear, straightforward, and to the point. This very much resonates with the reality of today. If we look at how much climate has already seized from us, how many of our houses it has destroyed, how many territories it has taken away, well, we haven't opposed anything against that. This is really so. We as humanity haven't taken a single step to oppose at least anything against this climate. Yes, we tried to fight something, supposedly some CO2 or something else. But this is actually, well, guys, let's mature. The situation is not suitable for us to continue these games. Everyone already understands this perfectly well. Pardon me, hardly a week had passed after the conference and what happened in the United States. I feel very sorry for those people who died. I feel very sorry for those people who lost their homes. And believe me, unfortunately, well, the year 2021 is over, and the year 2022 has begun. The last year was tough, but this one will not be better, and we ourselves understand what will happen next. In our hands, we have a key to this seeming hopelessness, to this closed door. So why don't we use it? A simple question. After all, this concerns our lives. This is indeed so. It's our life. Do we want humanity to remain? Do we want, our children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren to exist? Or do we want to terminate history on ourselves? Like, we have lived, and that's it. Now the rest can stop living. Are we really that bad as humanity? If this is true, if we are capable of nothing, if we are only capable of, pardon me, doing evil and acting badly towards each other, well, then yes, then we will not use this key, and there will be what is supposed to be. Because if we reasonably look at what is happening now in the world, in our consumerist format, where lies predominate, where there is so much filth that I don't even want to repeat. Just think, as of today, there are over 40 million slaves. In our present-day world, 40 million people are in slavery, where children are exploited, where people die of starvation. Is this actually right? When we possess technology and capabilities to ensure that there wouldn't be even poor people, not to mention hungry ones. As of today, we possess technology and capabilities to overcome a lot of diseases, but we continue profiteering on that. Guys, well, I don't feel like talking. Why do I not feel like talking? Because a thought comes. Perhaps this world should be shut down. Maybe we shouldn't do anything. Maybe we are no longer capable of anything. Perhaps we should wait a little bit and start everything anew. But on the other hand, if we look at how many wonderful people there are in this world, how many people who are true heroes, and what kind of prospects open up before each of them, you should merely step over your own thought, over your consciousness that says no, while you feel that it is yes. You feel that it is necessary. Take a step, and the world will change. There are many people who have taken a step. And this gives hope. So far, only this is saving our world, which could have ended a very long time ago. But it continues. It actually continues thanks to such people, the true heroes of modern times. And it is wonderful that there are more and more of these heroes every day, that people really understand, realize, and start acting instead of sitting idly. This is splendid. It is splendid that the world is waking up. This indicates that there is a chance and a prospect, and we must use it, despite everything. Yes, right now, everything indicates that the Earth Project, with our so-called humanity, has to be closed. However, we can actually change this point if we disagree with it. And I believe all reasonable people do disagree with it, don't they? They do. So everything is in our hands, my friends. We can do everything. We shall overcome everything when we are together. And I think that this year, 2022, will be much more successful than the previous one in our opposition. And we will be able to prove that we are people. It's already time. It's time to wake up.
Indeed, this year, which is already over, has shown how many mature, grown-up people there are.
Yes.
Meanwhile, the signs of maturity include, first of all, an ability to take responsibility and initiative.
Right.
And you've said it correctly that we see how the ranks of heroes are expanding and getting reinforced, which cannot but bring joy. This really evokes admiration and joy for the fact that people don't keep silent. People are not indifferent to the trouble which has taken place. They are not indifferent to their future and the future of their near and dear people.
Yet, how can you be indifferent to the future of your near and dear people? It's okay if it concerns yourself. Although, again, what does it mean? It's okay if it concerns yourself. After all, each of us fights for oneself. Isn't that true? Many people don't care about all their near and dear ones because a human in the soul is different than in consciousness. And when consciousness predominates, a person is an egoist. He's a beast. And he is ready to commit vile deeds. You know, I'll give a simple example. It is harsh but truthful. What can be more precious than a child? Or what can be more precious than a near and dear person? However, the majority of people, I emphasize, almost everyone who lives being guided by selfishness and consciousness would not give their life for a near and dear person, even for their child. Yet, why is it so? Now many will say, oh no, I would give it. My friend, imagine a real situation, and you will discover how harsh the reality is. Why? Because there were many situations in the world when people chose their own life. And this is sorrowful. It is sorrowful that we don't even fight for our progeny. But when a person gains freedom from his own consciousness, from his own selfishness, at least a little bit, when he understands what true life is, which is not here, then he is ready to do a lot. He gives this life of his to serve people, to serve everyone. Then any person, any personality in this world is near and dear to him. And he gives his own life for that personality. And it is wonderful that there are more and more of such people nowadays. Yes, there are still a lot of egoists. Yes, there are many people who are lost, let's say, amidst the twist of their own consciousness. This state quickly passes, and it is cured very easily, believe me, just a little bit of time. And the climate will show that. The main thing is for us to do it on time. That's the main point. While everything else will be available, both new prospects and new knowledge. There will be everything. It all depends on our choice, right?
We should hurry to do good.
Right. And it's already pleasing, joyful, and inspiring that there are many people, and more of them appear every day, that this format of selfishness and consumption is collapsing. The format of these lies which were imposed on everyone's mind. Now it becomes more pleasing to look at the world when more and more truth is being voiced, when more and more people become free, truly free, instead of being somewhere in some kind of illusion. This is spectacular.
Because they feel what the true life is and they value it in themselves and in other people.
That's the most wonderful point. You know, friends, today we were going to talk about many things and discuss various issues. But it seems to me that the most important and valuable thing is what Tatiana has just said. It is life, happiness, and joy. When you feel that, in my view, this is the most important. What can be more important than life? You know, I will even put it this way. Even if this world is destroyed, yes, it is really sorrowful. But if you, my friend, gain life right now, you don't have to be afraid of the future either. Isn't that wonderful? A simple question, to gain life, to ignite this flame inside yourself. And if you also share this flame and ignite it in other people, they will also remain alive, despite the fact that they will lose their bodies and this illusory world will vanish. It doesn't matter if it exists or not, it is temporary. It will vanish anyway. That's inevitable. Sooner or later, everything that is material is temporary. So, when we have a chance to gain what is eternal, we mustn't miss it. This concerns everyone. We mustn't miss life. Moreover, it is very easy to gain it. One should just stop serving Satan. And this is really so. To gain love, happiness, and to start living as a human, a free human, a happy human. And, excuse me, no external factors can influence either happiness or life, real life, regardless of whether your body is sick or healthy. That has no influence. That's a different thing. A body is mortal anyway. Any person's body is mortal. Any matter wears out and ceases to exist sooner or later. Whereas life is eternal. In every person, there is something that is impossible to wear out. It is our soul. It is eternal. And we as personalities can merge with eternity and gain life. But for that, we should take a little step, merely to begin to love. My friends, I suggest that on this positive and cheerful note, we finish our meeting today. You know, it actually feels somehow nice inside when something good is emerging. Let's give rise to this good and nice inside each of us. Let's grow as much love as possible in ourselves and share it with each other. Let's begin with a simple thing. Let's love each other. Thank you, friends, for being with us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. The ocean sounds so as to remind its droplets that they are constituents of a single whole.
So, friends, let's be a single whole. Thank you.